Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about a recent event that also directly pretty much ties into why I, for the most part, stopped doing photography or videography in the city of San Francisco. For those of you that don't know, I actually am from Sonoma County, and I would actually, or I used to, do a lot of photography over at various locations in San Francisco, whether it's the Golden Gate Bridge, the Marin Headlands, or sometimes Twin Peaks and various other locations around the city. An event that recently occurred at Twin Peaks in San Francisco kind of brought that to my attention again as far as like why I kind of stopped. We're going to be talking about some of the things that happened. We're going to be reacting to the event where someone's camera gear upwards of $35,000, I believe it was stolen. And we're going to kind of give a little bit of pointers as far as what you can do to kind of prepare yourself or be more aware of your surroundings and maybe some things to do or not to do, some choices for you to make for yourself. Let's go ahead and just watch this news clip of it. At the very end, I will have the raw video, just the event itself, but I kind of want to break down some of the things that were said in the news reaction and the way that this is being presented to kind of educate you more.
Oh my God. You have a gun. Stay in here. Get down, get down.
It happened Friday evening at one of the parking pullouts just below the top of Twin Peaks.
So yeah, Twin Peaks, very popular photo location. There's basically, if you look at all of the hypebeast photography pages based out of the Bay Area, you'll see Twin Peaks is a big popular one. You'll also see overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge, whether it's on the side that's near the fort or up in the hillside, up on the northeastern side from a certain hill spot. But this is a very popular photo location, and San Francisco is home to a lot of very popular photo locations, one of which we've talked about before, where a guy was followed for 40 miles and then robbed. 40 miles. Maybe a little bit of situational awareness. But this one is a much more popular stop and just hang out tourist location that people just kind of go and just hang out at.
So you can see one of the robbery suspects pistol whips one of the victims, then later pointing their guns at the film crew.
So one thing to kind of talk about here is I would love to hear what you guys would do after watching this video and kind of how it goes down. If you watch the end of the video and kind of see the whole event, I'm curious if you were in the position of either the person being robbed. What would you do if you were in the position of someone who is in the car filming while they know one of their friends or family members is outside of the car? What would you do? For those of you that, like me, that carry firearms, this would be a situation where you would have to determine, do you get involved? Do you need to get involved? Do you value the other people's lives that you don't know? If you didn't know the people that were being robbed, would you intervene? That's something that you have to kind of decide. It's one of those game time decisions. No one can really say how they would have reacted because you weren't there. So we're all just Monday night quarterbacking this. But I would be curious to see what people think that they would do in various situations involving this kind of event.
Oh my God, they got the camera.
The man who posted video of the armed robbery on social media said about $35,000 in camera equipment was stolen.
There's a few reasons why photographers are such easy prey and are preyed on so often by these opportunistic criminals. I mean, just for example, they said $35,000. That's quite the haul. Now, selling specialized equipment, probably a lot more difficult, but it would be very common to see someone walking around with a setup very similar to this or similar to what I'm recording on right now. This is a Sony a7 III body with a Sony FE or with a Sony G Master lens. This is just a single fixed zoom lens. This right here, brand new if I were to buy it today, would be about $3,500, including the cost of the SD cards in here. So that's not even my most expensive setup. If I were walking around with a camera bag with both my bodies, maybe 2 or 3 lenses, I could easily be walking around with $7,000 to $10,000. If I was carrying all my stuff, I didn't even count it all up because I didn't want to think about it. But you're looking at, sometimes close to 5 digits. That's a lot of money, and it's so easy. If one of these is stolen, there's no real way to track this down. These sorts of things are very attractive for criminals because unlike a phone, you can't really get locked out of this. So it's very easy to sell and flip. Now, when you're taking photos and whatnot, you're also typically very sucked into the camera. One thing that I got into a good habit of while being a photographer was just being aware of my surroundings, keeping your ears open. But when I would use this, I almost have a little bit of a reflection in the blacked out screen. So sometimes I would be able to use this to kind of see behind myself or just be generally aware if there's motion going on. But in these locations, like over at the fort near the Golden Gate Bridge or Twin Peaks or the Marin Headlands, there's just a lot of very opportunistic criminals that are taking advantage of people. I actually stopped after I used to go to shoot the sunrise in San Francisco because I thought it was a cool spot by the Golden Gate Bridge, just very, very good looking location. But I actually stopped after a photographer was held at knife point and then a photographer was shot out there or held at gunpoint over a very short period of time. I just said, you know what? Not worth it. I don't really like waking up super early anyway. I'm kind of busy. I don't really feel like going and taking very similar photos to what I've done in the past. I'm just going to move past that, think fondly of that time in my life, and no longer go back out there. And that's a real big reason. And we're seeing this sort of crime shoot through the roof in San Francisco.
A Chicago tourist visiting Twin Peaks told us he's well aware of the numerous smash and grabs and robberies that dozens of visitors experience daily in San Francisco.
How great is that? That someone that's not even from the area just knows, hey, if you go to San Francisco, don't leave anything in your vehicle. You're going to get smashed and grabbed. It's just a matter of time. And my favorite thing is like when you talk negatively about this sort of experience, this sort of way of life that you have to live when you live in a big city, there will always be people that are like, oh, it's not a big deal. You only get broken into like, a couple times a year. I think on Twitter recently, there was a instance where Seth Rogen was off unhinged, just talking about how getting broken into isn't that big of a deal. And he doesn't treat it as an extension of his personality and thought of it as like this quirky little thing about living in the city. Like, oh, how cool is that? This is not a safe place to be. It's not a safe place to leave anything.
And those who call Twin Peaks home know this is one of the spots where you always have to keep your head on a swivel.
You just never know who's lurking around, especially up here.
Juviel Vinlon says she never leaves anything in a car, something her roommate in the Twin Peaks neighborhood learned the hard way.
And again, another reason why at these sorts of places, people that do photography or people that are so focused in on photography, they're easy pickings. They're usually very focused in on what they're doing. Sometimes if they're not shooting like a model or a portrait of someone, if they're just shooting landscapes, they might be completely locked in and focused in on what they're doing and no idea what's going on around them. The amount of times that I've had photographers bump into me at locations like this because they just weren't paying attention, I'm standing completely still and they just back up into me, you would be very surprised. The amount of focus that goes into taking works of art level of photography, not saying that I'm capable of doing that because I'm not, but the amount of focus that goes into it, they're like sitting ducks, they're fish in a barrel. It would be so easy to commit crimes against photographers. It's insane.
San Francisco police confirmed they were called at about 6:15 Friday evening after the holdup, and they're asking anyone with information about the robbery to text them at tip 411.
Even if the police can do their job, even if they're allowed to do their job, even if they have the funding to do their job, when they do their job, the DA will just let them go and not press charges, or maybe they'll be let out on $0 bail. San Francisco has such a huge problem of these kinds of things occurring over and over and over again. I believe in the situation where we discussed the guy who, it was a follow home robbery. I think one of the people involved in that case was actually on bail for a follow home robbery. So my question for people like you that might live in San Francisco, and obviously you maybe don't have the financial means to leave San Francisco or whatever it is, for whatever reason, you're still there. Do you get caught with it or do you get caught without it? I personally am of the opinion that people that want to protect themselves should have the means to. I'm not saying that I think every single person should be forced to carry a gun. Obviously not. That's not right. But in San Francisco, if you want to carry a gun, you are forced as a San Francisco resident to either break the law and carry a gun or follow the law and not have any means of protecting yourself in a real manner. Feel free to let me know after you watch the full video of the context, but you understand the context of the situation. People show up quickly with guns drawn. You're generally not going to have a very good time if you try to pull a gun on someone that already has a gun pointed at you, but it's situations like that where you kind of have to take advantage of the opportunities that you're given, even if the opportunities aren't good. Because if someone's pointing a gun at you, even if they don't intend on using it, you can't know that. Because the people that are doing these kinds of crimes are not normal, level-headed, calm, rational individuals. They are willing to kill you for the stuff in your pockets or the stuff in your car. Are you willing to protect yourself and do what it takes to protect yourself in a situation like this? I think these are questions that you kind of have to ask yourself and choose to kind of assess your risk for yourself. I'm not saying that you need to carry a gun, but if you're carrying $10,000 in your backpack, it might be a good idea to pay more attention to your surroundings, maybe find other non-lethal forms of self-defense, because if maybe someone's pointing a gun at you or a knife, do you have the ability to handle yourself? Do you have the ability to handle that situation if they choose that they actually want you and not just what you're carrying with you? Questions to ask yourself, questions to think about. You guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace.
Motherfucker.
Oh my
You have a
god.
gun. Stay in here.
Get down, get down. Call Ashley, call Ashley.
Stay down.
Call Ashley, call Ashley.
No, Ashley.
Call Ashley. Oh my god, they got the camera. Courtney, Courtney, get down. Courtney, get down. Get down. Like, get down. No, they're getting everything. Call
She's running
911.
down the thing.
Call 911. Get the license plate. Get the license plate. I got it. I got it.
Ashley, get in the fucking car.
Oh my god. Ashley, why would you run now? Are you dumb? Yo. Go, go. Ashley, just wait. No, let them
He's in the
leave.
car.
Go. Let them leave. Yo.
911. I got their plate. Tell this